Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We are live. It's another Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation. Yes, I botched that intro out there. It happens, you guys, at the end of the day. You know what we do. We go live every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. And most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. What do I mean by that? I mean, I only speak to transportation professionals, whether it's on this show or my twice a week long form podcast. We do this to put the right information out there that you can apply, utilize, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. It's one of the many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag behind me every single day. A, we're the greatest nation on earth. B, I'm living my American dream, and I want to help each and every one of you live yours as well. I got a guest for you guys today. I'm going to bring him up here in a second. We're going to talk about all this. He's out of California, and we're going to talk about all this EV stuff because I keep seeing articles popping up about mandates and everything else, and he's in the thick of things out there in California. So we're going to talk to him here shortly. But before I do any of that, as always, you guys, I got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, vhubapp.com. Whether you're a broker, carrier, or a shipper, we all need access to trailers. And especially right now in today's market, with the market performing what it is, you should never have to shut your operation down if you're a small fleet or an owner op, because you have a trailer in the shop and you get paid to move these. That's right. You get paid to move these on top of the revenue that you can get by loading these trailers out. So what they're working on right now, they have Staunton, Wisconsin going over to Milton, Ontario, you guys. And this pays $350 US per trailer. And with these, you guys, there's like 140 of these. So you can create a drop trailer solution for some of those enterprise shippers that you're looking to get in with out there on the market. And you can offer this because it doesn't just have to pick up in Staunton. You can bring it down to the Chicagoland area and let it run free. It's just got to end up over in the GTA. We got Chattanooga, Tennessee going over to Clinton, Oklahoma. You got 600 US per trailer on that. And now they got a bunch of trailers going to multiple locations all through from San Diego. They got them going out to Georgia, Arkansas, Indiana, Tennessee, Texas, Illinois, you name it. And they're all range in price between $1,100 and $2,200 per move, you guys. And then finally, they got Paragould, Arkansas going up to Mississauga, Ontario, and you get 700 US to move those, you guys. So hit them up, vhubapp.com. My friends Zach Lonergan and Stacy Steen, they'll be in the audience. Just do me a favor, let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. Tracy St. Clair, she's watching over on YouTube. I've been told by numerous viewers, you guys, that YouTube streams a higher quality audio and video on there. So if you're on YouTube or if you're on LinkedIn or Twitter and you're watching this, jump over to YouTube, you guys. The Freight Coach is the name of the channel over there. I've heard from multiple people that the quality is substantially better over there. Rick Wooten, good Monday morning. Thanks for tuning in. David Nelson, he's watching over on YouTube as well. Good morning. Let's fucking go. Vitaly Becker, he's up there. He was on the show on Friday, you guys. He gave a ton of value to anybody who's out there trying to build their book of business right now, you guys. A ton of value. Tony, what is up? Good morning, sir. Stephen Thompson, good morning. Zena, good morning to you. Thanks for tuning in. Angel Garvin, good morning. All right, you guys, I'm going to jump up. I'm going to pull him up. It's time to go. He's got that terrible towel behind him. Mr. Sonny Sharma coming back on. Dude, thanks for joining me, Sonny.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
No, absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you because, you know, at the end of the day, you have been in this industry for a very long time. You have a ton of real world experience from all sides of the industry, right? Like you weren't just a broker, like you've been a driver, you've owned a couple hundred trucks. You've got a ton of experience. That's why I love having you come on to bring your perspective up here.
Yeah. Like you said, I've been on every aspect of this industry. I've seen a lot of changes, and this conversation that we're going to have, these are changes that I don't think will be good for our industry, let alone the world.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think that it is probably some of the worst policy decisions that I've really seen out there. And because like we had brought this up on last week's episode, and Sonny was like, hey, I want to come on and talk about this a little bit in depth because this is a lot bigger than the couple of minutes that I had enough time to give it. So from my perspective out there, like before we get into this, what has been the biggest, what's been your biggest thing so far this year? Let's talk a little bit about the market before we talk about the EV shit. What are you seeing out there, man? Because you're very specialized in what you guys do. So like, how are you really navigating out in this market? And tell the people out there, just in case any of your prospects or prospective shippers want to reach out to you. What's your niche, man?
We are a protein and dairy shipper. That's all we've done. That's all we do. And I mean, everybody that's in this company, that's what we know. We don't want to go dabble into produce. Our good friend, he's the king of produce. He was on your show a couple of days ago. So we are a protein provider. We do anywhere from break bulk, bringing in from overseas, to air freight for some dairy products and some protein products, and then full truckload and LTL for protein. Slaughterhouses, all the big names. The changes I've seen this year is pretty much because of the produce industry is kind of slow, we'll just call it. A lot of brokers that never came into the protein industry are now starting to dabble in this end. A lot of carriers that have never hauled protein or don't know, hey, we need X, Y, and Z dollar amount of cargo insurance to cover these loads, because typical load of beef can range anywhere from $270,000 to almost $500,000.
Yeah,
depending on what kind of beef it is. And I'm seeing a lot of problems. Just last night, I got a call from an old competitor, an old carrier of mine that now has become a competitor, asking for help because they screwed up. They found out that their load was triple brokered, and there's problems now. That's a huge problem in our industry, especially when it comes to these high value cargo loads. So they had their trailer was broken into as the driver was sleeping, and they got problems because product's missing. And of course, the carrier that's actually doing the load doesn't have enough cargo insurance.
Yeah. So it's like, how do you really work through that? Right. Because when it reaches the triple broker and all of that stuff, man, like, how do you, like, what's your first action plan? Right. Because like, again, I think that there's always a heavy emphasis on, double broker bad. But what if shit happens in transit? Right. Like, what's your action plan?
Well, first, we've had an issue. We had an issue about a month ago that you and I talked about. I automatically say, hey, tell us the truth. Who's doing the load? We need that company's information. We put them through broker carrier, and we need their insurance certificate. We need to talk to their insurance company. And yes, okay, we need to make sure that X, Y, and Z paperwork is done and their insurance has enough coverage. And then you just go from there. Sometimes it'll become a legal battle. Luckily, the one that we just went through didn't become a legal battle. Because actually that carrier that ended up doing the load did have enough cargo insurance. And when we put them through broker carrier, shameless plug, but it ended up working out. And if the cargo claim, thank God, I mean, after $250,000, which the carrier held and which we hold automatically, we have additional insurance on the product, anything above $250,000. So we had the extra $100,000 coverage. And luckily, their safety rating and their insurance, and they were willing to work with us. So it ended up being that I'm knocking out the person that I gave the load to, the person that person gave, and I'm dealing directly with this carrier.
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad enough. And our customer said, okay, well, if their safety ratings and everything are good and they have proper insurance, we're good to go.
It's tough right there, and I appreciate the shout out to Broker Carrier. We got a bunch of sick new updates that are up and ready to go to really, we feel, are going to minimize drastically any of these things from even coming to your table due to the security measures that are in place to even get past the point of setting up, right? And because we've identified a few very key factors that are common across the board in a lot of the fraud out there. And Kyle, being the data genius that he is he was able to compile a lot of that stuff and build it into our software. It's available right now, you guys, if you guys want to jump over to brokercarrier.com to check it out. And I don't shamelessly plug my stuff all the time and really push it on there. But again, this helps the carriers, because the likelihood of that shitbag that took Sonny's load and gave it to that, but like that won't even be able to happen anymore, right? Like we've done that much work on it, and it helps the brokers, and then frankly, it helps our customers as well. At the end of the day, but a lot of it is to me is there's such a technology. Yes, it makes your job more efficient. Yes, it makes your life easier at times, but like there's some key critical things that Sonny and I talk about offline that like you can't automate, right? Like you can't do that. You need that human element because it hasn't picked it up yet. And it allows some of this stuff to go through, especially when it comes like, that's why I am such a big stickler on calling these insurance companies and verifying that all the information that is on that certificate is an accurate thing, right? Like it's because like, again, and then you get that email from that insurance company that says that, oh yeah, everything's right. And then there's a protection layer that's put in from your organization.
Yeah, we don't, that's the one thing that the owners are very adamant about is once you get a carrier set up, the carrier rep has to call the insurance company and get a direct COI from the insurance company, not the carrier generated their own COI on online.
Yep.
Has to come from them, has to list, and in the email we request what's not allowed on this policy, what's covered, what's not covered. Back to the double and triple brokering and EV, being that EVs being pushed.
Yeah.
Can you imagine these trucks are only going to make it, let's say they leave San Francisco, Salinas. They only have a certain amount of mile range before they have to stop and pass off the trailer. Okay, they make it to Phoenix. They make it to Freight Coach Logistics warehouse or yard. Then another carrier has to take it. Well, what if the first carrier that does the load doesn't tell you, hey, we got to piggyback this load, and yeah, it's on my truck, but it's not really.
Yeah.
And now if that's an EV truck, well, it's got to be piggybacked.
I just, and that's what's not talked about in any of this stuff, because, like, again, like the article that we were referring to, you guys, I put it on out there last week, but it's from the Wall Street Journal, and it's California's electric truck drive draws startup building charging networks. Like obviously they're going to only focus on the opportunity with that, but they don't talk about this. And I've been, because EV's been a topic of conversation, Sonny, at a lot of conferences that I've been in attendance on. And the one critical component that can't be answered is, what do you do if the power grid fails? It's like that.
It was in the high 90s.
Yeah. Like because you're in California. I remember vividly last summer, because I legitimately spit out my drink laughing when I saw Gavin Newsom on TV stating, do not charge your electric vehicle.
Yep.
The governor of California coming out there and stating, don't charge your electric vehicle. And this is the nonsense that's pushed out there. And it is so because again, if you're looking at it from a critical infrastructure standpoint, the port of LA, Oakland, the ports in California are some of the busiest ports, in North America, but in the world, right? Like there is a ton of stuff that comes through in those areas. And to Sonny's point, like what happens, right? Like the charge is only for so long. And then what if it is a critical load of food that, you know, the temperature and everything else that happens? And there's a lot of stuff that, and I know that, you know, of course, our friends in Washington and other state capitals will be like, oh, that's your problem. But these are things that aren't talked about like at all. Like I haven't seen one thing, and I haven't seen one article out there that says, how do we keep EVs running when the power grid fails? Like, dude, I'm from northern Wisconsin, man. Like there's times where the power goes out for hours, if not days, with some of these snowstorms that are out there. And if everything's electric, and again, I know this is hypothetical down the line and stuff, but like you guys, when you're looking at 2030, 2035 comes a lot faster than you think. What do you do if the plow trucks can't plow the roads because they're EV, or the power trucks to repair the power lines can't run because there's no power and the grid failed and then the backup failed and all of that stuff fails? Then what? Emergency vehicles, everything. Like we're not thinking this through, you know, like, again, it's like, oh, investment money, yada, yada, yada. But this is a fucking terrible idea. It's probably the worst policy decision I've seen. Well, not the worst. I'm talking for our industry, the worst policy decision. We'll put it right there.
On that point, it's like, so I went on a customer golf trip, and we went out northwest. Mm-hmm. And three of the gentlemen that were there are part of a very large cold storage chain. And they were talking about how they have to get electric trucks for each one of their buildings to get some sort, so they don't get a carbon tax.
Yeah.
Because if your warehouse, no matter if the cold storage or your warehouse has been there since before the residential area was put in, you're going to get a carbon tax. And I asked the same question. I said, well, what if PG&E or whoever your electric provider is says no electricity for the next 4 days because of rolling blackouts? They're like, well, we're still good. We're SOL. So exactly. You keep pushing this, but there's no backup plans. There's no contingency plans.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things. And they said, well, we're always going to have our regular diesel-powered yard jockeys, but they're in the writing that they received, and I'm trying to get the copy of that paperwork. There is no contingent plan from, we want to call it Washington or Sacramento or wherever they're getting these rules from. There's no contingency plans.
Yeah. And it seems like that, like, because like, again, I have read probably, I don't know, 15 articles on this, just on this show alone in the last year-ish or so. And on top of that, the conferences that I've been at and the research that I've done is it's a lot of surface level. It's very partisan. We'll call that what it is, but it's very surface level talking points, right? And there's not a lot of substance. It's just like all the driverless technology that was fucking flooding our headlines in our industry for the last 3 years, right? I'm not celebrating that anybody's laying people off or anything, but like, look at where that's at. And the reason why I think this is a lot larger issue than most people are giving it credit for is because this is actual legislation that was signed into law in the state that has this going on. And, you know, again, it's like, what is going to miraculously be fixed? Because it's like, if you just pay attention to the news this summer or any summer, California's had rolling blackout issues ever since I can remember. And that's a thing, right? And again, it's like what I am never a fan of is the government telling us this is the only thing you can do now. It's not, hey, here's another clean alternative option, which cool. I'm a fan of, like, hey, you know what? We found this technology. We think it could be beneficial. If you want to buy it, go for it. But if you also want to use a diesel truck, go for it. That's what I believe in. I don't believe in the alternative that's being put out because, again, it's like if you look at the owner operators and the small companies that are out there, they don't have the bankroll to purchase 100 of these trucks or even 5 of these trucks.
It goes back to, I remember a while ago, I just can't remember when. It was been a few years where the governor had a news conference about this whole EV and about going electric, and he had all these EV cars parked behind him. And we're going to push EV. We're going to push EV. Well, the EV cars they start at $150,000. And it's like, okay, well, my thought is you want to push green. I get it. I completely understand. We push green, but give people the opportunity to say, okay, if you're a fleet of 100 trucks, 50 of them got to be EV and 50 got to be naturally aspirated. Not all across the board. Because that'll never happen. It can never happen, and people don't think about the destruction that these mines cause to the environment to create the lithium for these EV vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah, I just Googled the Tesla semi price starts at $250,000 per unit. And I know that because I showed that picture last week of like what a lithium mine actually looks like and how is that any better for the environment as opposed to current fracking and oil drilling that's currently being done across the board. And for me personally, it is, it's one of the, it looks worse, right? Like, again, I'm not an ecologist. I'm just a guy who talks shit into a mic and knows freight at the end of the day. But like,
we went to public school.
Yeah, I went to public school, exactly. But I can look at photos and looks like there's a lot of stuff out there that it's not cleaner at the end of the day, right? And then you look at the local vegetation, because like out here in Arizona, for example, solar is a big thing. They want to put solar farms all around, but like when you rip out that area that they're going to put these solar farms in, were there no animals that live there? Like if we're really talking about being better for the environment and everything, all the vegetation that's being displaced and all of that, like if we're going to call it, let's call it for what it is. And I'm not saying, I just think that at the end of the day is there's so many pipe dreams that are being put out there, and the sooner it gets to these things happening, right? Because it's like, we all know what the current administration stance is on green energy and everything. What stops them from doing that? And I know that you're only one administration away from that being disbanded and everything, but like, what if? Then what? Then what about all the workers that are affected by this? Because it's not just semis. You guys, like it pretty soon, like they're just going to remove all diesel entirely, so every work truck that's out there, every vehicle that like it'll just all be off the road.
Well, I have a good friend. They own a very large construction company out here. And I brought it up. Him and I started talking about it, and luckily his dad rolled in. And I asked the dad, I said, so if this gets pushed, he goes, I can guarantee I'll be out of business. And they're a very, very large company. He goes, because we can get the excavators and dozers and everything now, but they're priced double and triple of what the old equipment is, or what a diesel-powered excavator is. He goes, no one can afford it. And he goes, even to get it, what am I going to have to do what kind of charging station building platform am I going to have to create? No one knows.
Yeah.
It all comes down to what is the financial hurt that's going to be put on the public. Yeah.
No, it's true, man. It's like the more and more of these regulations that are put out there, and it's like, and I'm not sitting here saying that like I'm not concerned about the environment and all that shit, because I want to breathe cleaner air just like everybody else. I want to live in a more sustainable environment just like everybody does, right? At the end of the day. But there is just some very large points that are lacking about how this keeps, to Sonny's point, small business, mid-sized business. How does this keep any of them in business, right? That's what I'm concerned about, because let's not forget, just like our industry, 95% of the companies in transportation are small business, right? I will always be an advocate for that stuff. As somebody who is bootstrapping everything themselves, I just don't believe in that. Like, I believe in, again, if you're going to present it as a viable alternative to current options, cool, I get it. Put it out there. But that's where it needs to stop, because it's starting with, you know, semis. Then what's next, right? What's that like, that's the thing that it's always the surface level talking points, but it's never the what's next. What's the contingency plan if something happens? Or what's the, like, what stops them from going down and removing, you know, then again, you're talking about construction equipment, you're talking about mid-sized vehicles, you're talking about all of that stuff. What's next? Then what? What stops? It doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going and going.
The other thing is people don't think about, or the people that are pushing these policies aren't thinking about the product. The cost of living is going to go way up.
Yep.
Because the cost of trucking has gone way up.
Yep.
And the shelves are going to be empty or half full because it's taken double time from it to get from the shipper to the receiver.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll agree. Okay, if you want to run EVs, local only, but a trucking company has to be given the opportunity that you have to have 25% of EV vehicles compared to what you own.
I just don't even agree with any percent. I don't think that any of it should even be a thing. That shouldn't be on the table of them saying you have to do any of that. Like, it's fucking enough already, right? Like, I already pay enough in taxes. I already pay enough with all this shit. Why can't I just, like, work? Right? Like, why can't I just provide and, you know, live for my American dream without having more and more fucking hurdles being pushed down? Because there's already enough rules and regulations on trucking companies out there. There's already enough. And this is just another layer. In, you know, like, California already has been, you know, the CARB compliant shit for a long time. Now it's like you can't even own a truck. It doesn't matter if they pass smog. You can't even own a truck that was 10 years old at this point.
Anything 10 years old can't even be in the state.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, and it's just like, it's just non-stop, right? It's a non-stop assault. And then you just sprinkle AB5 on top of all of that too. And it's just like, I think, like, this is a model of just what not to do. Just from a trucking industry perspective, we're not even talking about fucking any other policy but trucking right here. And this, the
people that are setting these policies probably don't even, they probably, they probably don't even know how to start a truck, let alone pop a hood of a truck and tell you what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, they couldn't even tell you how many wheels run an 18-wheeler if their life depended on it.
Stop pushing policies on stuff you don't know about or something you haven't done.
But I also think, like, that's, you know, the whole thing, you guys, is if you don't like this shit, like, fortunately, I don't fucking live in California. Sonny does. Other people who watch my show do. This is why you have to fucking call your elected officials. Like, this is legitimately why you need to lobby for this shit more and more, because otherwise it gets to this point and then you look up, you're like, oh, what happened? This is why you need to get involved in your local community about stuff and see what is actually being passed, or even what bills are being put on the docket, because this doesn't just, like, this will affect transportation. This will affect your pocketbook. This will get really, really bad out there if this continues, you know? And again, and this isn't, I am a fan of traditional diesel engines. I will put it out there because, you know, at the end of the day, that's just my fucking personal opinion and I'm entitled to that. I just don't believe in any entity out there telling us that we have to do something a certain way. I mean, I believe in the Constitution. I believe in freedom, you know, and nowhere in there does it say you have to fucking do what we tell you to do.
Well, it's not only the thing is that if California is able to push this and make it happen, other states are going to follow. The rest of the country and the rest of the world is going to have to follow, because if you think about it, the DEF and the CARBs, well, California is the state that started that.
Yeah.
Now every state and every government agency has to follow the same rules.
Yeah.
So it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter where you live.
It's just like AB5. AB5 passed in California. It went right to the fucking White House on another legislation that's out there. Fortunately, there's more shit that it has to jump through to actually do anything in Washington. But yeah, you guys, it's only a matter of time. And I know we blew through those 30 minutes. It always happens. These shows are, but again, Sonny's got a business to run. I got a business to run. And I try and keep it as close to 30 minutes as possible out there. But hey, man, how does anybody reach out to you to find out more? Are you guys hiring?
We are hiring. We're hiring. We're looking for agents always open. We have a few positions for outside sales, commission based, open. Looking for an operations manager in Canada to help with the current team and grow and manage everything. And then I'm on LinkedIn. Zemzink is on LinkedIn. Zems is on IG. Follow and share.
I love it. That's true. And if you guys need to get in touch with Sonny, you guys know who to hit me up out here. But that's going to be it for today, you guys. We'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. As always, if you guys saw value, subscribe and share the show, you guys. Rank the show if you're watching over on YouTube. If you're watching, hitting the audio-only replay on iTunes and Spotify later on, hit it up. And as always, we'll be back. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.